For our next speaker, he is a three-time senator, the first incumbent senator to run and win as independent candidate. He's also the president of the Liberal Party, the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revisions of Code, and the former presidential assistant for food security and agricultural modernization. He's also one of the two senators who voted against the anti-terrorist bill. Without further ado, I would like to present Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, Elroy, and thank you to Wolfgang. Good afternoon, the FNF, our colleagues in the Liberal Party, ladies and gentlemen. Magandang hapon. I was asked to explain salient points of my no vote. A number of them actually have been touched on by Congressman Kit. So I'd like to take a step back and look at the broader picture. And then later on, during the open forum, we can also touch on some of the more specific constitutionally infirm provisions, I believe, of this measure. So, well, primarily, as far in two respects. First, of course, is the constitutional issues that we feel were not squarely addressed. And second, would be the overall context of the approach to challenges in the country by using law enforcement, draconian, iron fist measures. We all need an anti-terror measure, but I'm surprised that precisely as explained earlier by Congressman Kit, this was rushed in the middle of COVID. I took down some notes, so allow me to read them, my notes. The draconian iron fist approach to governance of the last 3 years is slowly being exposed as ineffective, if not inutile. 30 years of warlordism and terror politics in the local level, wherein killings and terrorizing critics and opponents into submission was the norm, was 3 years ago, and up until today, still being simplistically replicated in the national level. And this, quote unquote, successful local level leadership model is now slowly and painfully being exposed as ineffective in confronting the more complex, more multifaceted challenges of national governance. Two iron fist draconian policies of the Duterte administration's governance comes to mind and has been proven ineffective. Firstly, the murderous drug war. 4 years after the Oplan Tokhang was launched, after the deaths of over 30,000, drugs continue to proliferate. 2 weeks ago, 5.1 billion worth of illegal drugs was seized by the PNP. In 2017 and 2018, 1.6 billion and 1.8 billion pesos worth of shabu was able to slip through customs officials and eventually seized in Valenzuela and Cavite. The PDEA then estimated that at least 16 billion worth of shabu slipped through and was not seized. Yet in these two controversial cases in 2017 and 2018, no big-time drug lord, no customs official have been charged or punished. Na-promote pa nga or rehabilitated. In December 2019, after less than a month as chairperson of the country's anti-illegal drugs campaign, no less than VP Lenny, found out to her disappointment that the statistics, the data, the information utilized by the PNP was faulty, inaccurate, and they did not match. There was no science-based approach to the drug war. 4 years after the Iron Fist drug war was launched, we are nowhere near addressing the menace of illegal drugs. The second Iron Fist policy, draconian policy case study, is the Marawi tragedy. The Marawi tragedy is further proof that the authoritarian, militaristic, and iron fist approach does not solve the country's governance problems. 2.5 years of martial law in Mindanao, the total destruction of Marawi, using the full force of the military and the PNP in 2017. Yet 3 years later, where is Marawi? Is it in any, has there been any major development in addressing the destruction? It is in this backdrop of events of the last 3 years that the anti-terror bill was being pushed and surprisingly in the last minute certified as urgent, coming as an economic crisis facing the nation since World War II. And so we feel not just that the timing is wrong, well, the timing is wrong, but also because the whole militaristic approach to governance, authoritarian, iron fist, strongman response to governance is ineffective. The inutility of the militaristic approach to governance has also been exposed in the last 3.5 months with the government's inept, slow, corruption-tainted campaign to manage the COVID. We've had the longest lockdown. We've had 30,000 being arrested, curfew being employed. And yet, where are we? Second highest mortality rate in ASEAN, and the highest and the lowest recovery rate in ASEAN. Our mass testing of 30,000 as a target, we're only doing less than around 30% of target. The numbers continue to rise, and they're talking of extending, expanding, or continuing with this policy of restricting movement and the like. And therefore, we will ask ourselves, in this context, why should we even think of an anti-terror bill? Congressman Kit mentioned a number of controversial provisions which violate our Bill of Rights. It has been described as usurpation of judicial powers. The Anti-Terrorism Council now has the power to issue written authorizations for arrests for a period of 14 days, extendable another 10 days. That is the 1987 Constitution precisely put in place that this power is a judicial power, that the judge must personally examine witnesses and the complainant, and must personally determine before he is to issue a warrant of arrest. That is there precisely because the executive warrants of arrest under Marcos's regime were abused. The search ASO, the arrest, search, seizure order, and the PDA, the preventive detention action. And so it's going back to executive issuances of warrants. the right of the people to free speech and an expression. The Bill of Rights says no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech. Section 6 or Section 9, precisely inciting to terrorism, punishes speeches and writings. So this, again, runs afoul to our Bill of Rights. Earlier, Kit mentioned proscription and designation. What happens here is that you will be preliminarily designated as a terrorist organization, and you have 6 months within which to go through a process of being delisted. In the meantime, your terrorist tag is in place. Your members are arrested, detained, and your bank accounts, your phones tapped, and your bank accounts frozen. Really, the length and breadth of the constitutional infringement on our rights is splattered all over. And therefore, that is why we voted against this. And so there, I would like to end there, and maybe we can have an open questions in the open forum. Maraming salamat. Oh, sorry, just one more point. Sabi kasi where to? Sorry, I missed that. What next? I believe now we must exhaust all legal remedies, and one such remedy available is to bring this matter to the Supreme Court. Question the constitutionality of a number of provisions. And we believe that it is best for us to have as many petitions before the Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court will feel the pressure, will feel this, will see that there is stiff opposition to this measure. And hopefully a number of the provisions may be struck down as being contrary to the Constitution. But it all depends on public sentiment. If there is public sentiment, outpouring of support for our desire and our petition, then maybe we may be mga tao din naman, ang mga Supreme Court justices, may mga apo yan, may mga anak yan. At pag naramdaman nila yung galit o kaya yung init ng damdamin ng ating mga kababayan kontra dito sa nasabing batas na ito, eh baka sakali, we might have some victories there. So that's one. The other is, I don't see this being amended anytime soon. But the longer term approach is elect senators, maybe like Kit Belmonte, and congressmen into Congress who will commit to filing a mandatory bills, assuming that the Supreme Court dilly-dallies or does not resolve the issues in our favor. So it's a Supreme Court case, and mobilizing people, citizens, organizations to oppose this measure. If I may say so also as a last point, last June 11, I think for the first time in a long time, you've had different groups, political organizations coming together in a press conference to announce all the various June 12 protest activities against the terror bill. Piston was there, KMU was there, Akbayan, Liberal Party, Tindig Pilipinas, the silent majority, I believe, was also there. So all, various political forces from different, from the political spectrum came together because of this measure. So to oppose this measure. And so maybe that is the silver lining here. We do need unity. We do need to come together. We do need to cobble together a strong opposition constituency against this measure and other excesses that we now see prevalent. And that's the way forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kiko. Thank you for explaining your vote, why we had to vote no against the anti-terrorism bill, especially given the backdrop of the draconian policies of the current administration, but it's also the history of lawfare that has been done by the administration. So how do we say that the new act, once passed, won't be another tool in the arsenal given the history of lawfare of the administration? So it is in this spirit of the June 11 press conference of joining hands with people and listening to, we're not alone in the fight. No, we have other people who have concerns and have expressed their issues against the bill that will definitely affect them, because people think uh, this is only targeted for a small group, but it's actually affecting beyond that. The intentions go beyond its the impact of the bill goes beyond its intentions. So